We're at Big 12 Football Media Days talking with Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby, who had his State of the Conference address earlier and answered some questions. You mentioned that you expected the first question you'd get would be about expansion. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that is the first question I ask you regarding the stuff that came out a couple of weeks ago about expansion. Where do things stand as far as the Big 12 is concerned?
Well, I think the majority of our CEOs believe that our current configuration is where we ought to be. There's a group of 2 or 3 that really feel that we ought to get larger, and there are a couple that feel strongly that we ought to stay at 10. And I think there are 5 or 6 in the middle who are there to be persuaded and want to hear the evidence as we go forward. And we don't have any particular imperative to get larger. We think that there's a lot of advantages to being where we are, but we also can't be oblivious to things going on around us, and so we're going to be constantly vigilant.
The Big 12 continues to take a leadership role as far as player safety involving college football is concerned. You announced that Big 12 is going to continue to limit or start limiting contact in practice. Explain a little bit more about that, please.
Well, first and foremost, we didn't believe that the national rule went far enough. The national rule is 3 days of contact during the season, and by that I mean full contact, full pads, tackling to the ground. We have felt that we didn't need that much. Our coaches aren't using that much, and so we've adopted a policy of 2 days of contact, including the game, and if you don't play in the game, you can have another day of scrimmage. And we think it addresses both the concussive events that take place in practice and in the games, and we think it also takes into account the cumulative effect of subconcussive blows as well, and the repetitive use type of injuries that there's some evidence exist. And so safety of our student athletes is principal in all that we do. We want to lead on it. We think that our rule is the right one and should be the national rule, but we think we need to do the right thing even if it isn't the national rule.
Another thing you mentioned, a campaign or initiative called Champions for Life. What is that going to entail, and what's the reasoning behind having that campaign getting ramped up and started this year?
Well, I think it's partly to remind ourselves what's important. This is about helping 18-year-old adolescents become 22-year-old adults and get a great education that can be life-changing for them and have a great experience in college athletics. We need to make sure that our stated principles and our actions are the same, and they haven't always been in the national environment. And I think that we need to make sure and do the things that put student-athlete welfare ahead of all other considerations. And so I think we're moving down the path to do that. I think the changes that have taken place in the last 2 years are going to be highly beneficial to student-athletes, whether it's full cost of attendance or transitional health care, or the opportunity to get a 5-year scholarship, or the return to school to get a degree. I think all of those things make the student-athletes' lot in life better, and we should always keep that in the front of our minds. So this really is about being champions for life, and we're going to do probably 150 vignettes and stories on student-athletes in the Big 12 Conference that represent all the best elements of what collegiate athletics should be.
Commissioner Bob Bowlsby here at Football Media Days in Dallas for the Big 12 Digital Network. I'm Wendell Barnhouse.